Hey everyone, Nicki Traikos here of Life by Design. I've just returned from an extended trip to the UK. I was in London for quite a few weeks and I wanted to share with you some things that I got. So this isn't my usual YouTube video, but I wanted to share my haul with you and show you what inspires me and even give you a sneak peek into a side of Nicki and my creative life that I don't normally share online. So I hope you enjoy this haul from London, England. Okay, let's start with a sweatshirt. How cute. I couldn't resist. I needed a cozy sweatshirt and something that said London on it. Was a must. Okay, so here is my desk filled with things that I bought. You might be thinking, Nicki, where are all your art supplies? So I didn't buy a ton. I'm going to start with the art supplies. As you can tell, I am a huge book fan, but I was trying to limit how much art supplies I was bringing home. This here is not going to open. There we go. This is a little palette of watercolor. These were empty containers that I decided to use for some new watercolor pigments that I bought. This palette is called British Earth. It is by a very handmade sort of bespoke watercolor company that I can't seem to find in Canada here. They are Wallace Seymour watercolor paints. They are minerally, really, some of the pigments are actually really coarse. So they've been an interesting paint to experiment with. But this palette I got from a store called Choosing Keeping. If you are in London, you're probably familiar with it. It's in Covent Garden. I've visited it in the past. It's a store that I just love shopping in. They have lots of pens and notebooks and posters and greeting cards, and just if you're a stationery paper lover, you will really enjoy shopping in this shop. So I picked up this palette, again, very bespoke. So you can't buy individual colors from this store, but they're called British Earth. And then what I did was I have a few more of their colors from a previous purchase that I got. And I thought I would put them into a container and then swatch them so I have them for when I am not only traveling, but when I'm just wanting to paint with something different from my usual Winsor & Newton paints. Okay, so that is my first one. And I feel like maybe I should have organized my pile better, but that's okay. It was a nice unpacking when I came home because I've forgotten all of the things that I had seen and done and explored. So I went to the Tate and I bought myself a sketchbook. I thought I would sketch more often than I did. Here's my son sitting across from me. Kind of looks like a fisherman actually, on the subway, but I am really excited to just have this in my purse and be able to take it with me. Before I get into my stacks and stacks of books, oh, and I have to say, I bought this from Choosing Keeping as well. This is a Caran d'Ache. It is a Swiss-made pencil. They have sets of pencils. I've been doing a lot of pencil sketching, and I'll show you some things I was working on while I was away. And I thought, oh, let me just buy at least one. I can't find them in Canada. I have seen them on Amazon again. They're a little bit pricier, and I thought before I invest, I don't need more pencils, but I wanted to at least try one. I have to say, I'm really impressed by the weight of the pencil. I wish I'd gotten maybe a softer one. So this is an HB. I wish maybe I had picked up like a 2B. I'm going to change my camera angle here a little bit and got a softer wood, but it is so comfortable in the hand. It feels really good. If you are looking to invest in a few good quality graphite pencils, I would recommend picking up a few. I really will. When I'm trying to be good about how much more art supplies I bring into the studio, just because I feel a bit overwhelmed by everything around me. But when I need new pencils, I'm definitely going to invest in a few more of these. They're just really great to work with. I'm really enjoying the weight of it in my hand. And I feel like sometimes tools can help energize your art practice. So if you can invest in better quality tools, I always say upgrade when you can afford to. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I am really active with planting more wildflowers to attract more pollinators and give them opportunity to feed more. I've expanded my wildflower garden. I'm hoping that in the springtime next year, it really will start to come to life. So I ended up picking up some seed from a local, it was in Greenwich Village. It was just a really cute little shop. And it has a mix of cornflower and chamomile and poppies and marigolds. And anyway, I just thought they'd be fun mixes. So this is to help with the pollinators because I'm really passionate about bees specifically, but also it gives me much more botanical references for me to sketch and paint from. So that's something that I'm really excited about. I'm going to see other art related. So I do mixed media art. Again, I will be sharing more in the next coming months of my personal art practice as I'm getting back to that and selling my artwork. But I love to pick up these printer blocks. So they're antique, vintage. I got them again at an antique market. I use them in my art journaling when I'm working on just ideas for my mixed media pieces. I'm going to show you this little sketchbook that I made. Okay, so this is a sketchbook that I made. Make a little bit of room here. We're going to switch things around. Okay, I feel like this is better. So this is a sketchbook that I made out of just a variety of paper. You can see I even, while I was out and about, I would find interesting botanicals that I can flatten. But this is, again, handmade. They're just 3 signatures of really different and unique sort of paper in an old vintage book cover that I had taken apart. And what I do is I sketch and paint on the pages from the old book pages, and then I do some collage work. This is a process that I do when I need to be creative, but I don't want to necessarily draw a complete piece, and I just want to be able to play with textured paper. I love anything vintage and antique, so this is where I get to do that. And then this is basically the inspiration for when I am working on my collage pieces that I have up on my NickiTraikos.com website. So let's use this page actually. So these blocks become mark making tools. So I have just this archival ink pad. So it's just a stamp pad. You can use ink and a roller to ink them up, but I love, hopefully it'll work because I think my pad's a little dry. I love being able to create, like even just that outline looks really cool. This is the number 2. So I love to be able to make marks. Again, my ink pad is a little bit dry, but I look for blocks that will offer me some unique shape and pattern. So there is the E with the accent. And then I use them again in my art when I'm doing some collaging. Okay, so again, it's just very faint, but there we go, off to the side. Playing around with these unique ways to record these videos. So as I go, be patient with me. I feel like now I need to put this in the center. Okay, so these are some things that I bought again from a vintage market. When you're out and about, even if you were at garage sales or estate sales, it'd be really fun for you to look for things like these that you can add to your creative practice and your art too, maybe. Okay, now to my favorite part. Okay, we're gonna put all this away. So maybe you have known me since my calligraphy days. I am a calligrapher and was a calligrapher, I'm going to say, because I don't do that so much now, but I love lettering and I love letters in general. I love handwriting and old paper. I'm kind of nosy and I love to be able to witness a part of history, but on a micro scale, so personal history of people. And I love to get a glimpse into how people lived. You know, back in the late 1800s is definitely a time that I'm fascinated by. So anytime I can pick up ephemera, so handwritten letters, old advertisements as well, I get really excited. Let me do a little adjusting again. So if I can pick up old letters that people have written and correspondence, I do, and I try to make sure that I can get correspondence from a few, like these are written to the same woman, And the postmark is, without having to put on my reading glasses, I want to say like early 1900s. You know what? It might be written in this envelope. Then I like to just get a glimpse into their life, 1925. And this is, I feel like it was a letter to a woman from her suitor at the time, or her boyfriend, or her fiance. And it feels like they wrote letters every day to one another. Imagine. Instead of texting, they wrote and posted letters every single day. So I like to collect these and then again use them in my collage pieces when I feel like I have enjoyed them enough and I'm happy to add them to a collage, whether it's in, again, my sketchbook, but you can see some handwritten bits. So these are things that I find when I'm out at maybe different paper sales, estate sales, antique shops. I've bought them and found them everywhere. So these are ones that I picked up when I was in London. And let me know in the comments if you want me to do a video where I read a few of them. The language is so interesting. What they communicate to one another is so interesting. It's, again, if you're curious about it, I am looking forward to even sharing a few of them, a few of my favorites. So I also love sketchbooks, and as you can see by my stack here, I love old vintage books, and I buy them for different reasons, and I try not to spend a lot of money on them. I'm going to show you a book that I picked up, again, in Greenwich Market. It's from 1846. I paid more than what I normally would on little vintage books like this, or antique books, but this was unique in that it was kind of someone's scrapbook. So they had written poems, and some of the lettering is really faded, so you can't read it necessarily in full, but you kind of get an idea of what was important to them at that time. And it's just, I feel like it's just a very romantic period where we spent more time reading, having conversation, practicing art, whether it was music or writing or painting. So these, again, are just stickers, I guess, that they had, and they put into this sweet, sweet little sketchbook. There was a larger sketchbook that I wanted to buy at that store, and had some great conversations with the owner, and they were beautifully painted. It almost looked like tempura paint tempura paint. Tempura is the Japanese deep fried food that I love. Tempura paint, and it was in pristine shape. I couldn't believe it. From the 1800s, it was a fairly large sketchbook, but it was like 300 pounds, so I couldn't justify that. But aren't these sweet? And then I hold on to them and then decide if I want to then add some sketches to them. Then it creates even a longer piece of history, personal history, I find. So there's a book on the degrees of zodiac symbolized, so I love anything astrology. So I thought, wouldn't it be fun to read up a little bit on what they taught back in the early 1900s, I believe. And this was like a vintage antique shop find from a vintage bookstore that even the owner was like, oh, I can't believe that I just sold that for £4 along with this one. So this looks like it's a German print, but again, my love for lettering and typography. Look at all of those monogrammed, beautiful pieces of artwork that again will inspire. Like, I'll look for symbolism within them and even just pick them up and go through them so that it creates a little bit of creative inspiration. So again, I'm trying not to buy too many more books, but they're just so inspiring and I use them always. So this was a book that I got again from another shop. It was actually close to the Tate Modern, and I just love the watercolor. Again, being a watercolorist, I love the expressive play. So I will open this up one day soon and I will use it to remind me to just be creative and not to worry about painting something specific, but to enjoy just picking up my watercolor. Okay. Queen Victoria's sketchbook. I had to have this. Again, pick this up on my way to probably the National Portrait Gallery that day. And this is the part that I'm at. But this is just Queen Victoria's sketching and painting, and it talks about her process and a bit of history. I really love I love strong women and strong women in history, and can only imagine, what women went through. And I'm fascinated by their story, but also looking at the glimpses of her artwork and what inspired her and how she painted it. And yeah, I love sketchbooks. I love peeking into artist sketchbooks. I'm going to show you mine too, what I worked on while I was there. So this for me was a find, and I'm excited for my morning coffees where I can explore it and use it. And then because I'm doing a lot more drawing, I love black and white. The cover fascinated me. I don't know this artist, but I feel like, again, it's just, I love renderings and I love unfinished sketches and pencil work. So I'm really excited by everything that's in this book. So there is the artist's rendering of then what he chose to paint, oil on canvas, and dated. I wonder what date this is from. But yeah, so anytime, and it was £1. So really, if it can come home with me and inspire me, I'm going to save a book. So this was a big purchase, and it was a big book to bring home. It is Bristol County's educational ledger from, I want to say, back in the 1800s. I can't even fit it in the frame. I'm going to see if I can do it. And the cover, I had to wash the cover. It feels like a bit of felt. It looks like there's like a cigarette burn in there. And it feels just so amazing. But it is the school ledger. So again, I can imagine painting on this, sketching, portrait. I was really excited to find this book, and I'm going to show you the ledger part. So this is just where they kept track of, here we go. Look at this handwriting. Oh my gosh. So this is from 1908. This is where they kept track of all of the schools in the Bristol area, and kept track of, I guess, of spending. I'm not quite sure. I actually don't care what they kept track of. I just love that there are pages filled with handwriting. So these pages will eventually turn into artwork. I'm going to see what's in between here, actually. Sometimes you find, look at that. Oh my God, look at the handwriting. Sometimes you find little interesting pieces of paper too, and I feel like there's one in between these two pages. Oh, no, it's just a longer page here. Yeah, so this is one of my really excited finds that I'm excited about. And again, I have lots of ideas for what I'll do with all of this beautiful handwriting, which I think is kind of cool. So again, not my traditional watercolor painting, and more of a really insider point of view on Nicki and other things that fascinate me, which I am going to show you something that I experienced. I'm going to flip cameras for a second. So while I was, and maybe what I'll do is I'll show you, there we go. So you can see a little bit here. While I was in the UK, I had been following a few accounts on Instagram where they show things that they find off the River Thames in shallow banks. And again, I'm fascinated by anything that is old world and from a time when, I guess, the Renaissance, when people spent more time in conversation, in leisure, studying arts, reading, learning. I can just imagine myself in that time. So when I find things in antique shops that are reminiscent of a time where there was just a slower way of living and a more simpler way of living, then I get really excited. So there are two accounts that I follow on Instagram where they do this, and I'm going to tell you what it's called in a second because I just found out literally the day I was leaving England, where they search for things off the river banks, and they pull up old rusty bits of jars and metalwork and jewelry sometimes, and just really interesting pieces of the past. So I decided to go on what I called a treasure hunt, and I set out, my intention for that day was to find treasure. And there was a little part of a beach. We stayed sort of East London area. There was a little part of the beach that I was able to access through a big step, and it was safe, and there was lots of beautiful stone and rock. And I found something as soon as I jumped off that ledge, short ledge. I was safe. And was completely fascinated. So I'm going to go ahead and try to zoom in. But look at this. It's so heavy. Beautiful piece of metal that I found. I have no idea what it is. So if you know, please tell me. I did do a Google image search. I couldn't find out what it was. I did end up messaging one of the ladies. She wasn't quite sure, but I found these interesting bits. And so what I'll do is I'll use these interesting bits. You know what I'll do? Let me put something so you can have a better view. Here we go. I'll use these interesting bits as inspiration for colors. Just to have near me for shape and texture. So these I thought, oh, what could they be? Could they be like bullet shells from World War II, or they look so old and cool? They're actually Knox containers, but because they're so rusted, they end up giving it a vintage feel. So not only did I find some beautiful stones and pieces of like terracotta, so I'm going to do this. I kind of do these color, like I use found bits again as color inspiration. So look at how beautiful the blue and the browns and patina of the brass and metal look together. Like so when I pick up things and take them home with me, they have a use. Not only do I collect them and have them next to me on my desk, but they're inspiring to show me, a color palette maybe that I can play around with, or so some texture, whatever. But the process of hunting for things like this, along a riverbank or whatever is called mudlarking. I had no idea. And just to let you know, which I didn't know, is you need a mudlarking permit to mudlark along the River Thames in central London. I wouldn't say I was in central London, so I don't feel like I broke any rules, but there's actually tours you can do and day trips. So I'm definitely going to do that again. I'm fascinated. So I picked up things from another antique shop. So this is a French oil can. Again, I thought it'd be really fun to be able to put some paper on it. I love old brass keys and the fact that there's even still the price tag on this. I bring things home like this with me. And then what I realized were these little rocks are actual pieces of chalk, and I'll show you on this old book. But I demoed this in one of my story posts on Instagram. But look at how beautiful these stones are. So they're actual pieces of chalk that I can even then use a bit of watercolor paint and add some fun texture to. But when you're out and about, just look for interesting stones, interesting bits. I have some just acorns here. Again, I look for texture. I try not to pick up more than I need or that I can use and appreciate, just in respect for the environment and what I'm picking up. But sometimes there's a treasure that has your name on it and it has to come home with you. So that's the way I look at it. Now, when I was away, I did do a little bit of painting. I thought I would be doing more, but I worked on a few portrait sketches. Again, if you've been following me for a while, you know that portraits are something that I've been taking classes on and teaching myself and practicing and enjoying over these last few years. So I have been able to work on a few portraits and doing some practice and really starting to define my style. Don't love that so much. And again, just sort of working on loosening up a little bit and maybe even trying to work out, who I am as a portrait artist and what I want that to look like. So kind of just going back to my roots of making more art, selling art again, being in galleries and shows, and leaning into that side of Nicki and my art practice. So it's gathering inspiration, it's playing around with different art forms, and really deciding what that looks like. So when I started to pull out everything from my suitcases of what I brought, I realized how little art supplies I brought home, which is good because again, I feel like I have a lot, but what I bought was very specific and I knew I didn't have it at home or didn't have access to it at home. And then things that I could bring into my art practice that I can use as well. So I hope this haul was maybe unexpected for you and inspiring and gave you a little bit of insight into a more behind the scenes and in the studio vibe, because sometimes, there's only so many things you can share, but really today was all about sharing a bit of my excitement and my passion for what I love, but also showing you that there's just maybe a bit more depth to an artist, and what inspires them and sort of the behind the scenes. So if you haven't subscribed yet to my YouTube channel, please do. I am sharing more of these types of videos. If you're looking for watercolor tutorials, I do have a few. Really, my classes is where I want you to have a full experience and be able to work on your art practice, but I'm happy to still be creating some tutorials along the way that help you as well. And again, resources and books and just videos like this where it's a conversation and we're being inspired, and I'm sharing a little bit more in depth of who Nicki the artist really is, which I hope again you find interesting. So that is my haul. I'm excited to use my books and the chalks and my blocks and really enjoy making some art in the next few weeks. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, comment, and let me know. Let me know if there's anything here that resonated with you, or maybe something that you want to start to look for as well. And also let me know what you want to see more of. I'm hoping to bring on guests so we can have creative conversations. I will be doing some more tutorials upcoming. Oh, and one other thing I picked up in the UK, my advanced copy of Watercolor Made Simple. So I've done a whole flip through, but this was another thing I got to pick up while I was in the UK, which is exciting too. So let me know again what you'd love to see more of. I know this was a bit of a longer video. Thank you for tuning in for this long if you have. And again, make sure to give the thumbs up, but subscribe so that you can be notified when I release the next video. Thank you, happy creating, and I will see you next time.